I love a good story, but I like stories that have a little adversity to them. And I think all of you in here have probably gone through some type of adversity. So I'm going to share this story with you. There was a farmer and his wife, and they had this wonderful little goat. Now, I have to tell you, this goat was kind of messed up. You see, she was dyslexic. She had sensory issues. They gave it a fancy name called synesthesia. And then she stuttered. Yeah. And so the farmer and his wife decided they were going to go into town, and so they tied her up to the dug well outside, and they left her there to graze. Now, while they were gone, the poor little deer fell into the well. It was a deep well. And so they come back, and they're looking for their little goat. Where's the goat? Where's our little goat? We can't find the goat. What we gonna do? We can't find the goat. Now, I don't know why they never thought about looking down into the well, because you did tie her to the dug well after all. Well, they looked inside the well, and now, oh my Lord, what are we gonna do? Our little goat has fallen deep inside the well. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Well, the farmer thought, he said, maybe we should get the neighbors. And they called the neighbors over. And they all looked into the well. Your little goat is in the well. What are you going to do? He said, you know what? I have a rope in the barn. I will go to the barn, and I will get the rope, and I will throw it into the well, and I'll pull her up by her. And just as he was saying it, the neighbor held up. No, wait a minute. You can't do that. You do that, you'll surely kill her. Isn't this the goat that has all the problems? Then why are you trying to save her? I think the best thing you could do, you and your wife, is give her a decent burial. And so the farmer and his wife went to the shed. They got their shovels, and the community got their shovels, and they came out, and they began to throw dirt deep into the well. And with every shovel of dirt they would throw onto this little goat, she would do something that her sensory issues made her do. She would shake it off and pack it under. Okay? And they would throw more dirt on it, and she would shake it off and pack it under. And because she stuttered, her farmer parents taught her, if you sing, you can't stutter. So she would sing, I'm coming out. I want the world to know, And then on top of that, because she stuttered so bad and things like that, and, the dyslexia, her messages always got crossed. And so she heard the people from above her screaming and, saying all kind of things, and she thought they were encouraging her to come out. And so she was like, come out? Oh, sure, I'm coming up. And with every shovel of dirt, she'd pack it underneath her feet, and she'd shake it off. Shake it off, pack it under, shake it off, pack it under, until she emerged out of the well like the golden goat she was. I am the goat. I am the spreader of sunshine, self-proclaimed. I bring unexpected happiness that takes you on an adventure, stretches your imagination, shows kindness, makes you giggle, that intentionally represents and celebrates the differences and similarities in all of us. Diversity designed by adversity. That's my story. Hello to my world. So as a child, my mother and father brought everybody into our home. When I tell you everybody, I mean everybody. So diversity was shown to me very early on. We had white people, we had black people, we had Jewish, we had the mentally ill, we had, you name it, they were all invited to our table. My mother believed that everybody deserved dignity. And so she would bring in the different people off the street who lived on the street, who were dirty and considered bums. and she would feed them, and she would wash them, and she would make them feel human again. And that was very important. Now, as a child, this is what I saw all the time. But as a children's book illustrator, it would affect me later, much later, because these people would end up in my books. They would become characters in my books. And so now we have this thing called diversity. It's this big word that we use now to talk about the lack of seeing brown children or children of color in picture books. So way back in Once Upon a Time, black people were not drawn beautifully. They were drawn very crudely. They were distorted, big lips and bug eyes, and they were even laughable. Now let me ask you a question. Do you want somebody to laugh at you? Draw pictures of you that make you feel bad about yourself? I don't think so. See, my grandfather, his grandfather was both Japanese and Cambodian, and my great-grandmother passed for white for many, many years. And he became a proud U.S. military man. My mom and dad, loving parents to my sister and Koi and I. And then there was my great-grandmother, who was a pillar in our community and a pastor of a church. My great-grandmother would become a midwife and deliver all the babies in Hampton County, South Carolina. My mother would follow in her footsteps. My mother, at 16 years old, would go to school all day long and then come home in the evening and deliver babies all night long. They were singers and entertainers. But I have a public service announcement. We Need Diverse book says, when children cannot find themselves reflected in the books they read, or when the images they see are distorted, negative, or laughable, they learn a powerful lesson about how they are devalued in the society of which they are a part. You see, I loved Romper Room, and I loved watching this program, and this woman would get on the stage, and she would hold up a little mirror, and she would look out into the crowd, and she'd say, I see Bobby, I see Susie, I see Mary, but she never saw Vanessa. And I would be hurt by that, and I ran to the kitchen, told my mother one day, I said, I don't get this. How is this lady not seeing me? Am I invisible? And she knew, no, baby, you're not invisible. There's nothing called diversity for you just yet. And so I remember seeing commercials of blonde-haired women and thinking that I could get blonde hair out of a Brett bottle, okay? And so I wanted to be a Brett girl. I wanted long blonde hair. So I got me some through a yellow sweater, a wool yellow sweater. Now, let me explain something about black people's hair. Black people's hair and wool together is like Velcro. And I was snatching out my edges and driving my poor mama crazy. But there were no Red Riding Hoods for me. There were absolutely no brown princesses. There was nothing imaginative or positive, but then a superhero came along. His name is Ezra Jack Keats. He created a wonderful book called The Snowy Day. It would be the first time in history that we would ever see a black protagonist in a children's book. I love this man. He is my hero, my mentor, and my friend in my head. You see, I was dyslexic, or am dyslexic, and I had a teacher named Mrs. Russell. Mrs. Russell knew I had a learning difference. I remember the day she sat me on her lap, and she read to me The Snowy Day. It changed my life. I am 54 years old, and I can still remember the pictures. I remember seeing a brown boy that looked like, he looked beautiful. He was everything. And he looked like this little brown girl named Vanessa. His mama, she looked like my mama. And his snowsuit, wait for it. Bam, me and my sister, we had snowsuits too. Ezra's reference for Peter was pondered for 20 years until we get this iconic character here. And he says of Peter, I drew Peter simply because he should have been there all along. A little boy having a snowy day. If you live on the East Coast, if you live here in Sonoma or somewhere where it gets cold, you're going to have snow. And kids love snow because that means no school. I'm going to get to play in the snow. It's simple as that. I have another public service announcement. Kids do search for themselves in books. In a survey of 2,000 schools, 90% of the educators believed children would become more enthusiastic readers if they had books reflecting their lives. Because Ezra represented me, I now want to intentionally represent others. So this is my mission statement, and I'm going to leave it there for you to read, because I want you to know my heart is that every last one of you be seen in a children's book. I'm trying to give the adults here a do-over as well. Yeah, you get a do-over, you get a do-over, you get a do-over. Everybody gets a do-over. So the dyslexic storyteller and the stutterer now has become a singer, and my sensory issues help me paint beautiful pictures. I have become my name. My name is Vanessa. Vanessa means butterfly. I have metamorphosized into this person who just loves to share this with everyone. And so I teach children and adults to love themselves. I celebrate cultural differences. I draw dads with daughters, my family and my friends. I draw colorblind friendship and colorblind courtship. I draw blended love on display. I celebrate all people, red, yellow, black, and white. All our children are precious in our sight. But even when I was being intentional and illustrating everyone, people said, the white people say you're too black, and the black people said you're too white, and I said, what? Are you kidding me? I draw everybody. I draw male, female, I draw them all. Everybody's there on my page. And so I have done over 80 some odd children's books that display it. And I'm working on more and more every day. So I'm saying be the change you want to see. Be the change you want to see in the world. Invite somebody else to the table that doesn't look like you, doesn't talk like you, doesn't have the same, maybe even culture that you do. When we extend it, we change the frequency in the world, and we make it a safe place for other people to live. And so this is my heart's cry as I stand before you. There's so many brown children that have the same story as white children and as yellow children. There's so many similarities in all of us. And my desire is to bring all of that together on a page where you look, and just for tonight, you get to have a good dream. Just for tonight, you get to sleep well, and you get to see the world change. Children are like paper. They come to us as clean, bright sheets, and we get to write on them. Everybody gets to write on them. But we get to choose what we want to write on them. And so either we teach them hate or we teach them love, because babies don't come here hating. They come here wanting warm arms and a warm heart. They want to know that they're going to be cared for. And yes, they're a little selfish. They want to see themselves. And Miss Nessa's going to make sure that they do. So I leave you with this song. You've got to be taught to hate and fear. You've got to be taught from year to year. It's got to be drummed into your dear little ear. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught to be afraid of peoples whose eyes are oddly made, and peoples whose skin is of a different shade. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught before it's too late, before you are 6 or 7 or 8. to hate all the people that your relatives hate. You've got to be carefully taught. Care for the things you say. Children, do listen. Care for the things you do. Children will see and learn. Children may not obey, but children do listen. Children will look to you for which way to run, to learn what to be. Careful when you say, listen to me. Children will listen to every little word we say. Children will listen. They watch us while we work and play. Children will listen. Children will listen. Children will listen.